Let me call the January meeting of the Beachside Redevelopment Advisory Board to order, and I'd like to welcome everyone. If anybody cares to testify later on in the meeting, please fill out a form up here and hand it in to this young lady. And please print your name so I'll be able to easily read it. I couldn't read one of our city commissioners' names. I couldn't see her back there. It was a little embarrassing, and it was a tough signature to read anyway. Let's have a roll call, please. Young lady.
Dino Papanakis.
Here.
Robert Ellis.
Here.
Tony Servance. Gary Libby.
Here.
Krista Goodrich.
Okay. Yeah, we've really got to get some bodies.
I know she's supposed to be coming on by Zoom, Krista.
Yeah.
She doesn't count towards the quorum. So.
Yeah.
Right.
Is she
Gonna
she
take,
on?
but no
Zoom
form.
again?
Oh, okay.
But she does not count towards the quorum.
Who doesn't count towards?
Krista.
Krista, you have to have a quorum physically present in the room.
Correct, that's correct, yeah. And I guess, do we each meeting decide whether or not we're going to have a electronic member?
This is the way the city attorney has addressed it in the past. Let me find the wordings. Okay, so based on an attorney general's opinion, the members who are physically present may decide whether or not the person who wants to attend by an electronic mechanism is absent due to extraordinary circumstances, and whether or not to allow them to appear by technology.
Okay. One
So
of the problems with Krista is she's already, I think, at 3 or 4 absences, and there were 3 in a row there, and we went ahead and sort of overlooked it. But if it's going to be a consistent thing, I think maybe I'd be willing to accept her, her participation electronically.
Well, it has to be because of extraordinary circumstances,
Well, that needs a definition, yeah.
such as a serious medical condition, illness, or physical disability.
Okay.
Or if a member is due to a scheduling conflict, it's up to the board to decide if it reaches the level of extraordinary circumstances.
Okay. I know that almost all of Krista's absences were business related. And
Well, again, the previous absences don't apply to this decision now.
oh, that was a new decision.
This is a new decision. Each time that you request, you would have to make this decision.
Okay. And is she going to participate tonight?
It's up to us.
I mean, is she ready to go?
They're saying that she's,
I will.
Hi, Chris.
she needs to state the reason for her absence, just general terms.
Yeah. Good evening. Hi, Krista.
Here, there's no sound. There's no sound. Can you guys hear me? Can you not?
Yes,
Do you
we
hear me?
can hear you. Yeah, we can hear you. Share with us why you're not with us tonight.
She can't hear.
She can't hear.
Can't hear. Yeah.
Can somebody call her cell phone? We don't hear forever. Yeah, I don't know.
Can't hear anything.
Do you hear us now? Okay, well,
Don't think so.
okay, well,
So I think
Well-
that's going to be a determining factor.
Yeah.
I can hear you now.
Okay,
hear us?
you can hear us.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah, now I
Hi.
can hear you. Yep. Hi.
Were you able to hear our attorney's explanation now of the new Attorney General's opinion
It's
on
not-
electronic?
It's not a new opinion. This is an old opinion. I'm just stating what has been said in the past about participating in electronically in meetings.
This is
Okay.
the first time we're here.
I couldn't hear any of that.
Yeah, we've
I
never
couldn't-
heard this, and it's new to us. So, Krista, these are the reasons that the Attorney General feels are substantial enough that we can have a member participate electronically. And would you read them off for
Okay,
Krista?
the Florida Attorney General's office has opined that if a quorum of a local board is physically present, which we're missing, so at this point, we don't even have a quorum, the participation of an absent member by telephone conference or other interactive electronic technology is permissible when such absence is due to extraordinary circumstances, such as a serious medical condition, illness, or physical disability. The fact that we don't even have a quorum of members to even decide whether she can participate, there's nothing to decide. We don't have a quorum.
Well, but for the future, I think Krista was very frank with us about her business. Sometimes her business schedule takes her outside of the city at the same time we're having meetings. So maybe you should continue with the full definition.
Right. It goes on to say, additionally, the Attorney General's office has opined that whether the absence of a member due to a scheduling conflict constitutes an extraordinary circumstance is a determination that must be made in the sound and reasonable judgment of the body that has to determine the appearance, to allow the appearance.
Okay. I guess since we don't have a quorum, it's sort of a moot point because you cannot count on the quorum count, although we certainly would engage you in conversation and participation in discussions tonight. And
Okay.
I know that you shared with me very, very frankly that you're going to have business conflicts. And I think when that happens, I can't speak for other members of the board, but you certainly have my
It's not even a real
support
meeting.
in being able to participate. And
not even a real
we'll,
meeting.
evidently, we need to decide each time whether or not we'd like to move forward with that. And under those circumstances, I guess we'll start tonight. Does anyone want to make
Well,
a?
again, there is no motion because we don't have a
Any
quorum.
motion?
We
Okay.
don't have a
There,
quorum.
this really is not a meeting. This is more of just a group getting together to hear information.
This is all an illusion.
Now,
We're not
Kent,
really here.
Kent, did someone say they would be here and then chose not to show up?
We did have a quorum, based on telephone conversations. The only two people we know were not gonna be here was, Mr. Surveillance and, Ms. Dunn.
So did Ashley say she was gonna come, or?
According to Mandy, yes,
Okay.
because she spoke with her.
She what?
She spoke to her.
Does anybody have her number?
We're going to move on with the meeting, and we would certainly welcome, if there are sections that you'd like to participate in, just wave your hands or something.
Okay.
Let us know.
Okay.
And again, this is pretty much just informational type. There really should be no discussions. There should be just be,
Well, we can have discussions, we just can't vote on them, right?
you really shouldn't even have discussions because if this is going to come back before the board for votes in any form or fashion.
And then, do we leave?
Yeah, I mean,
I mean, it's entirely up to you as to how you want to proceed. If you want to, like,
wait a minute.
with,
You just
with,
told us-
We're not
with
bothered.
regards to, like,
But if we can have
Like-
discussions on
Right.
these things,
well, for
we're not gonna
example,
come back and
if
visit them.
For example,
what's
the
the point?
presentation on the land development code, staff is going to do that presentation to let you know. That would be it. That's not probably something that would come back before the board because it's already before the city commission for their approval. It's already, I believe, been on first reading. The discussion between Main Street CRA and Historical Preservation Board representative, that should probably be put on hold because there's no decision can come out of that.
Well, what I can do on that one is just bring the board up to the point of information where we are, because there have been some positive things, nothing to take a vote, but there have been some positive responses from the Historic Preservation Advisory Board. They have a draft that they are getting ready to present to the city commission that would involve all of the city, including us, and including other redevelopment areas that have historic resources. So I'll do that because I think that needs to be
Well, again,
memorialized.
if there is going to be something that would come back before this board for an approval process, you probably be better off to wait for that and we have an actual quorum.
Well, I don't want to throw a monkey wrench into this, but it was brought to my attention. I'm a member of the Advertising Advisory Committee. Am I allowed to serve on this board and on that board at the same time?
No, you probably should not be serving on two boards. That's a dual office holding.
Yeah.
Because I don't see, I didn't even know that would be a conflict.
Well,
I would have to-
for years, the city and the county have agreed that you cannot serve on a board like this one and serve on any county board, ECHO, Forever, TDC, any of them. That's a conflict.
Well, that would be if there's a difference between if the county finds, there's some minor boards that may not be a conflict. But I believe that between these two boards, because they both have approval authority of
Correct.
things, that is what makes it a conflict.
Yeah.
Okay, well then, you're gonna have a hard time. You need to find some members because I can't serve on this board then, you know? I mean, I've already termed out and I
You
serve
turned
on.
out.
Yeah, I've termed out and I serve on the Advertising Advisory Committee.
And we're not going to revisit your decisions over the period of time when you served on both boards, because that could be a real problem.
Yeah.
I'm surprised it escaped the staff.
Yeah,
That-
I didn't know.
Well, unless the staff is told that he is a member of the county board, they would not have the knowledge of that.
It's in our minutes. I read it. The only reason I know is that Dino shared it with this board when we had an official meeting.
I
That he was
don't
a member of
recall.
the TDC.
I don't recall hearing
Okay.
that, so.
Okay, well.
No, I don't recall.
All right, okay then, ladies and gentlemen, we'll continue with our discussion then, and we'll ask our attorney to share with us those items that she
You should
feels,
be a member of this board.
that she feels best, no, he's already on too many boards, that she feels are
My
appropriate.
suggestion would be limited to the presentation of the Land Development Code amendment, as well as any staff updates and the police officer report
Okay.
that they do.
Well,
I
then,
would just
let
limit
me
it to
call the
presentations.
police officer up next, since we've always, as a matter of courtesy, invited the police to do their report at the front end of the meeting. Good evening and welcome. Would you please state your name
I
for the
am
record?
Lieutenant Gernert with the PD, taking Captain Nicolo's spot for tonight. So your numbers for the last 2 weeks of the year are, unfortunately, homicides are up 167%. We went from 3 to 8. Yeah. However, they're all solved, so that is a good thing. Auto thefts are up 61%. Total burglaries are down 26%. Car breaks are down 24%. Robberies are down 4%. Total aggravated assaults and batteries are down 40%, which is very difficult to do, so I'm very happy we have that number. Our total Part 1 crimes are down 17% for the district, and as you know, our goal is always 10% reduction in crime every year. Calls for service are only down 4%, and firearm offenses are down 31%. So the unfortunate part of the homicides being high, however, they're all solved, so.
Okay,
you for solving them.
any
Yeah, okay.
questions, any comments?
Any
from
complaint
members of the-
areas? No? All
Hearing none?
right.
Thank you very
You're
much.
welcome. Y'all have a good night.
Okay, we can move right on to presentation, I guess, on the Land Development Code, I
Yeah,
guess.
she's
She's
not,
absent,
yeah.
just not here.
Oh, she's not here.
Now, we got a conflict. The city scheduled a Bike Fest meeting, at the same time, so she's downstairs.
Saw that going on
Yeah.
downstairs.
I know that you said that there are certain ones that they're going to come back before this board, but there's a little tweak that I'd like to discuss that you might like. We can't vote on it, but the staff might like. That I think that should be put into one of these, and that is, because right now we're discussing. It's not. We don't even have to. And what it is, you have a. Let me grab it out of here. you have one of the grants that deals with the rent?
Oh, it's not about the event center?
No.
Oh, okay, okay.
I'm just moving because this is
Right, yeah, yeah,
informal
yeah,
and more of a, on the lease, subsidy.
Yes, yes.
I understand that, I support it, but I don't think that somebody should be able to relocate within the same redevelopment area, because what you're gonna end up getting is somebody, saying, hey, I can take advantage of this and live across the street, so you're not really inviting, new business into the area, you're just causing somebody to take advantage of a subsidy, which then the city's gonna be on the hook for,
It
so.
has to be approved.
What's that?
Yeah,
It has to be approved. I would think that any city member that looks at it.
yeah, but
is
I
gonna
can
go
see
across the
where, what Dino is saying.
I can see that.
Yeah.
Going from one strip center to another strip center across the street.
Yeah.
Because maybe the rent is a little cheaper.
Yeah, and she-
But there are also cases where.
Maybe it's a better maintained strip center.
Exactly. So there are various,
Yeah, the reasons.
reasons, maybe and that's a very good reason,
Yeah.
you're not being very maintained.
Right.
Where
Well,
you are.
and they
you wanna go
market,
to a
and
better
they're
one.
marketing across the street.
Yeah, exactly.
Doing all
Yeah,
sorts.
yeah. So,
Maybe,
but what Dino is saying is, you don't wanna start this competing against,
Right, the,
property owners.
I mean, when you read the purpose of this is to, the intent of the program is to increase occupancy rates of commercial buildings within the redevelopment area. That's the purpose. So I'm saying crossing the street
Yeah.
is not gonna increase occupancy rates, it's gonna close one store and open up another
Yeah.
store.
No,
So,
we're with you. We're with you on that.
I'm just throwing that out, for you guys to consider, for the future.
Yeah, I don't, Dino, I don't know how we solved that one,
You can't,
about-
because the law is the law.
without hurting, somebody's not gonna like, one side is not gonna like it.
Yeah.
But we'll think about it.
Yeah.
We'll kind of
I mean,
brainstorm.
you can do a physical distance within I mean, you're not netting any additional, if the purpose of this is to net additional occupants within the redevelopment area, you're not netting additional occupants by somebody closing one down.
Maybe there's an explanation given,
Yeah,
on the application,
yeah. So put a line in there that said, if you are relocating within the same
Within the same
redevelopment
CRA,
area,
yeah.
please
We wanna
explain
know why.
this will put the city in a better position. Are
And
you,
it's a- and it's
are
a-
you expanding? Are you gonna hire more people? You answer those questions and maybe we'll be on board.
Kent, in the good old days, questions like that, decisions like that were always brought to the board in question first. I understand now they're answered completely by staff, and the advisory board to the city commission is just informed of what the decision has been. I think your response on the grant program is an excellent one, because I saw on many of the written documents that you shared with us that were very helpful in bringing us up to speed on what was going on in the Beachside redevelopment zone. There were 4 grants. It just said grant 1, grant 2, grant 3, grant 4, and it was like $120,000. And to me, having served as chairman of ECHO and chairman of economic development and chairman on the city and both the county, the board evidently plays no role in questions like Dino asked. I mean, I can guarantee you that if an application like Dino is suggesting came before a board of citizens, we would raise those questions.
Yeah, I'm not sure, Mr. Libby, about the 4 grants that you indicated. Each of our grants have the amount that you're eligible for. We don't break them out like how you described.
This is a report you gave us, and
Okay.
I'm sure I have it, and I'll be able to share it with you after the
Okay.
meeting. But it showed how our money was spent the previous year. There was a lot of interest in where our resources had gone, and there was a section on grants, and I was surprised to see it. I thought it was terrific that we give grants,
Right.
but there was no explanation of who got them, what they were for, just the total amounts, and there were 4 of them. It was over $100,000. My question isn't that we shouldn't give grants. My question is, who decides? Who runs Border Town? Who decides on who gets the grants and who doesn't?
Yeah, now, once these grants are approved by the governing body, once they are approved,
Who's the governing body?
you all are advisory board, so you make recommendations on the grants. You don't approve the grants. So the city commission.
Acting as the CRA.
Yeah, but
City
we don't
Commission,
even see
CRA.
them until after the fact. I mean,
No, but I don't know what happened prior to me being here, but I'm telling you that the grants themselves are approved by your CRA board. which
No,
is
I
our
understand
city
that.
commission.
I
And
understand that.
And once they are approved, we put them out on the street for people to apply for them. Like this particular board here, and I don't know because I don't know if you did or not, but you would have had an opportunity to review the grant before the CRA board approved it.
okay, well, we did not, I've been on a year, and there were grants from that year that had been given, and there were no presentations before this board.
Yeah.
I don't, Michelle, do you know, because these grants, I don't know if they've been revised for the last couple of years. Like, this one was revised, oh, no, let's see.
The last revision was 2021, and it was only the commercial and residential facade grants. Those were not brought to this board. Those were brought only to the CRA board.
He's not talking about the actual grant language
I'm
themselves.
talking about the
He's talking about the application and
We okay, so is that what you're saying, the
Yeah,
application?
because let's look at how the county does business on Echo. The advisory board sees every single grant application, asks questions of the applicant within the framework that the staff provides for them, but they vote up or down before it gets to the county council.
Yeah, but that's
the
not,
staff.
that's not how it's written.
Well, I understand that. but
That's not how it's
I
written.
guess the question is, why is advisory in our name if we never have an
That might
opportunity?
be, first of all, we're also supposed to, there's a fine line between being business friendly and you know, and too much red tape too. I mean, I mean, I could
Yeah,
understand-
Dina, you only meet once a month.
Yeah.
you know,
we meet-
so-
We meet once a month, and if we're giving the guy,
That's a sticky one, because the advisory board votes on just about everything else, too.
but.
So, I mean, let's say, for example, let's say I want to put a sign up on my business.
Right.
I would have to come in front of the board I sit on.
Not if you.
No, you
not-
won't.
Not if you.
I would. I'm on a planned development. I would.
Well, the plan development board is a little different. This board is just an advisory board.
This is a board that votes on anything planned development goes through. This is the first advisory.
No, like this item here, for instance, this item
Well, I had to
here,
go through when I got voted in.
5A is not required to come before this board.
Yeah,
It is a courtesy,
yeah.
because we know that it will affect the businesses and the areas in that, on Beachside. We ask for staff to come and present before you. If not, you would have never heard about 5A.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I think that, personally, I think the guidelines should be all agreed upon. Once the guidelines are give, we need to let staff do their job, you know? I don't
But,
think,
Dino, under charter government, there's a very serious distinction between this board advising staff or this board advising the city commission. I'm under the assumption our advice goes to the city commission.
Yes.
That's the advisory, what advisory means to me, but yet we have not had one opportunity since I've been on this board to make a presentation to the city commission and to advise them on any of these grant programs or anything, including,
that's what I thought.
including the millions of dollars on Peabody Auditorium that came out of redevelopment funds.
but I don't think there's a problem with us, they're bringing before us the guidelines, that are going before the city commission as far as the grant and,
Well, this is the future, and you can never change the past, but you can affect the future.
Well-
And my question is, Advisory to whom? I'm hearing two different things. I'm hearing the staff assume that we're advisory to the staff.
No,
No.
that's not
We're
what we
not
said, Mr.
advisory
Libby.
under
We didn't say that.
Under
We
charter government.
agree, I agree unless our city attorney tells us different, that you are an advisory to the city commission.
Right.
We agree with you, but the grants that you see in your document today, it is because we feel as staff, we believe that you all ought to set your eyes on it and have an opportunity to review these grants
Perfect.
before we make any changes to them, and that's
Perfect.
why
This
they're
is
here.
brand
And
new.
again,
This
and I
is
think we
brand
need to
new.
be clear on the grant
Process.
program versus a grant application. And what I believe this has been presented for is to review the grant program. So to address things like what Mr. Pascalakis said versus somebody applying for the grant, which has been given to, now you could change this program to say that all applications have to go through this board.
Now,
But what I'm hearing, that's I think we're mixing two different
Yeah,
things.
and be quite honest.
Well, you can't separate the dancer from the dancer.
No, but there-
Sorry.
If you have a grant applicant who needs the money,
Right.
who's trying to redevelop his property, and then he comes before this board tonight, and we don't even have quorum. I mean, that's such a slap in the face, you know. I mean, we shouldn't even.
Well,
I mean,
it's linked to why we don't have a full board here, because it's not a priority. It's not a priority of our staff to make sure we have every seat filled up here.
you can't blame staff when you
I'm
don't have
not blaming
applicants.
them. I said it's not a priority.
Yeah, okay, you can't, if the applications are in, okay, I even turn around and you need to apply. There's a lot of people out there, they shouldn't be going and hunting people down. I mean, I have asked a couple people, you need to be on the board, you know, but I mean, you know, it's like one of those things.
I haven't seen one advertisement, one notice anywhere.
Yeah, they
on
advertise it. They advertise it on the
on
website.
television.
On the website.
Yeah, and I
City
actually-
manager's newsletter. We get their advertisement out.
I was sitting in the lobby, and if you listen to that continual thing, there is some part in there. If you would
Well,
like
there has to be a reason why people are not responding today, because they used to respond. We always had 3 or 4 extra people on this board.
I'll tell you one reason, okay? And it might be that the requirement is having a 4-hour ethics thing once a year. I don't mind you have a 4-hour ethics class once every 4 years, but to turn around and require the same class every single year, that to me, I was like, really? I mean, I'd have to do the same thing next year. I mean, that's like, I mean, how many times do you have to hear the same thing? I mean, give me the class 1 year. If you want to give me a quiz on the class to bypass 4 hours
Do
lecture.
you know the chairman of the advisory boards in the city have made that comment to our city commissioners individually over and over and over again? But this is it's now a state, not
Is
even
that
a
a state?
recommendation.
Yes.
It's a state
Yeah, it
law.
was passed by legislation.
To
Let me sum
require a
up.
4-hour class every
Yeah,
Can
let
you
me-
do it online, or do you
No.
have to?
You can do it online. We have the link.
Oh, wow, okay.
The original intent was to have it done in person, but I don't know how it has evolved to whether or not,
Because it'd be a lot easier drinking a
Right.
beer and watching it than, you know.
Let me say, I am very much in support
Mr. Ellis.
of the use of redevelopment, of money from the redevelopment trust fund to make the redevelopment areas better. I think grants are an excellent way. We used to have them. We had facade grants. We had all kinds of grants that this board looked at and said yes to some and no to others. And I'm sorry Teresa isn't here, because Teresa was an applicant to many of these facade things. I am a little confused when I read about the purchase of a major building on Main Street in the News Journal. And I know it's with redevelopment funds from the Beachside redevelopment area, and I wonder why we are the last to know. I mean, it just seemed odd to me. And then I got into it with our attorney over whether or not we were able to bring elements in the current plans that are still in effect to this board for action. And our attorney said we were not, and the city attorney reluctantly said we were, and we have been, and we're working on modestly on a couple of them in the historic preservation area right now. But I think there's a lot of confusion on who runs Border Town. And it's a very important question, a very important question. And I'm not sure that our former city manager got us just about as close to the line on charter government as is humanly possible without going over it. And I'm not so sure it's working well for the city. Certainly isn't on this board, because we can't find people to serve on this board. I've asked a bunch of them have applied, and maybe we need to me, it seems odd that if you live in DeLand and you work on Main Street, you're eligible to serve on this board. But if you live one block outside of the Main Street redevelopment area, you're not eligible. I think that's crazy. And so I think there are some problems with the eligibility criteria. And let's face it, if the dog won't bite, maybe you need to get a new dog. Maybe we need to look at those
Florida
requirements.
statutes.
Well,
Florida statute.
well, no, okay, but I think what Mr. Libby's saying is that on this board, there's a residential requirement and there's a requirement
Business.
for working in the area.
And they're equal, and they're equal.
Yeah, and they're equal. Maybe it should be and or, to open the door to maybe sometimes you'll have more people working in the area. Maybe you'll have more.
It is that way today.
Oh, it is and
It's
or.
an and/or.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's an and.
then there's not much more we could do than that.
Well, I think there is some confusion since the rewrite of the Land Development Code, just what we do
Yeah.
and how close we are to the commission. Have any of you made a presentation from this board to the city commission?
Not recently. I mean, I did last
From
year.
this board, from this board?
No, not from the board. I mean,
Yeah, well, I'm talking about the board.
Of the Friends of the Band.
I'm talking the
Nothing
board.
prohibits you from making a presentation before the city commission.
So and I think this has been said previously, that if this board, as a board, says we want this to go to the commission, they can say, Mr. Libby, we would like for you to present this to the city commission, and you go to the city manager and get added to the agenda and talk to the city commission. There's nothing that prevents that.
Well,
But just because you're the chairman does not mean that you have the ability to represent this board and say whatever you want, though.
I was told I could go to a city commission meeting as a citizen and stand up in the public
Yes.
section
You can do that as
and
well.
bring information from this board that way, and that's
can do that as
nutty.
well.
Yeah,
That
of
is
course.
crazy.
Nobody would stop you from
Well,
doing
I
that.
know it, but it's not the way charter government works, when it works well. And I'm just having, things happen that this board isn't even noticed with an email. There are major things that are going on in the redevelopment area. And they seem to be outside of our purview of knowledge, let alone interest. The whole Peabody Auditorium renovation and that whole project is a wonderful project, and I support it. But you find out about it after the fact.
Okay, I could see your point about being informed, but I don't think that we're supposed to be approving the Peabody redevelopment or somebody's application to a grant or anything like that, because I think that we should approve the form. That's why I brought up the point that I didn't think relocating from one redevelopment area within the same redevelopment area should allow you to ask for help with the lease. That's why I brought that up, because I didn't see how that net you more people. So then what does staff say? Well, maybe we should add an explanation thing. But I do think the process should go through us. We should look at the process, but we should let staff do their job.
Oh,
you know?
absolutely. No, absolutely, but we
Yeah.
haven't even looked at, this is new, looking at the
Yeah,
process.
no, and I
That's
appreciate
a great,
the fact.
that's a great
And
step.
I appreciate the fact that it was brought to us. That's why I looked through it,
Yeah.
and that was the one thing that bothered me. That was probably the only thing that bothered me out of everything. But I don't think we should have, you know, I mean, how many applicants do you expect to get? You know, I mean, if we had to go through, you'll probably get around 10 or 15 applicants on each of these individual ones that we're talking about. I mean, our whole agenda is not going to be approving redevelopment projects. It's going to be approving applications for people to get $2,500 or something like that, which I don't think is a good. I think it's a total waste of staff's time and our time. You know.
Well, you're setting up a straw man situation, Dino, that probably would never even appear. And you tend to do that on a regular basis, and I understand the way linguistically you like to argue things. The fact is, it would be nice if there were some way, and Kent, you agreed with me, that we were involved, either we either were noticed or whether or not we look at the basic shape of a new program. And many of us bring all kinds of experience to the table, years of experience here in the city and other municipalities, on the county level, on the regional level, on the federal level. A lot of us have been around a long time, and I think could help the process and round out some of the rough edges.
Yeah, but Mr. Libby, let's be clear. The applications for grants are what they are today. And staff is presenting these grants to you now so that you can take a look at, make recommendations, and so that we can have a
Terrific.
good discussion.
Terrific. Who
Going
did the
forward.
who did the application?
I'm not sure.
The staff did. We never saw the application.
Okay, and that's fine, but today you have an opportunity to go from A to Z on what you like and you don't like.
Right.
I can't fix what happened in the past.
No, I agree.
I'm saying what's going forward.
And I
I'm
agree with you,
asking-
it's a positive,
Yeah,
we're moving in a
so-
positive direction.
Yeah, so we're asking for input. And based on your input, we're going to take that information, and if we have to make changes to the grant, we're gonna take that grant to the city's CRA board and make recommendations to the city's CRA board.
The commission,
For them to approve it.
acting
Yes.
as a CRA.
Right. And that's how we get the changes. And the changes didn't come from us, the changes will come from you all.
That's a welcome new idea,
Yeah,
Kent, and I support
the
it.
part that I would hope you would side on the side of the staff is, once you look at the application and you said the criteria is acceptable, allow staff to do their job.
Absolutely.
Right.
Oh,
Let us do our
absolutely.
job, because we're not gonna approve something that doesn't meet the criteria.
And that's what we should be looking at.
And the part that I think, hopefully you would agree to, is that once we do approve these, we can do either one or two things or three things. We'll bring the applications back after they've been approved. We can schedule a time that the business owners have time down the road, to just tell you how the project went. But we don't want to hold them up in the
Oh,
process.
absolutely, but there should be an audit of some type as the project is ending. The city
Well, we
should
go out and
know
do an
how
inspection.
successful or.
No, we do an inspection, but
Yeah.
first they make application, and we make sure that the application itself meets the criteria. Then we send a letter that says move forward. And after they move forward and the project is complete, they submit all the documentation for funding.
Yeah.
And we go out and take a look and make sure the project is done according to the application.
Which is the way it should be.
And that's it. It's
But that's
it's pretty
new,
clean.
that's new, that's a new approach.
Well, that process has been the same.
And then it could be just like the police makes a report saying robberies, and it starts giving us a breakdown. You could turn around. We've given We could give them we give them $25,000 in a facade program to the following people. We gave this to the following people. You could do a brief synopsis.
Right, yeah.
You know, and to me that would be sufficient. That way.
And not just numbers at the end of the year, 3 months after the fiscal year ends, for the previous year, just some numbers on a
Yeah.
piece of paper.
We don't have a problem with that.
Okay.
We can give a synopsis
Yeah.
of the application itself to let you know what's happening
Yeah.
on that particular
But,
property.
yeah, but don't hold up the redevelopment. That's
Nobody's holding up
Yeah.
anything. We have been very interested, as you know, Kent, in putting some of the resources that is sitting somewhere to good use for the redevelopment area. We've been after that goal, but we still have been the last people to know when it happened.
I understand.
And it's
I
just,
hear you loud and clear, Mr. Liberty.
yeah.
And by the way, since we're all discussing, I mean, what is the government doing about the lack of sand? You know?
I don't know.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know.
Before we move on too far, and this has just been an open
Yeah.
discussion with no gavel or anything, I think also, you know, we have had, I'm not the one who tends to wield it the way you used to. We tend
You're
to,
not but Asher, don't worry.
we've had a very challenging year so far
Okay.
in the city, and I need to thank Development Services, and I need to thank Public Works for the incredible work you've done for our citizens in the city, and that was one of the reasons that we did not meet, didn't
Oh, yeah.
even attempt to meet, because there were very more important things
Right.
to do than to discuss what we have been working on, which was not only this, the creation of grant program, but the historic, you know, the historic element. But again, I take my hat off to you, because I got in my car and I drove west after the first hurricane, and I was terrified at what I saw, and I have friends living on the west side. And after the second one,
Right.
it was, I wondered if we were ever going to get the city put back together again.
Yeah.
And you guys
Yeah.
and Public Works did a magnificent
Yeah.
job of
Yeah.
working with FEMA and getting the full weight behind our city to get it moving again. And I want to personally thank you, since I can't ask for a
I will
motion.
certainly let those guys know at Public Works, and they did work hard to, get all the debris picked up.
David Waller, I think, probably put in 20, I'm sure you did 20-hour days too.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
He did a magnificent job for our city, and I think many citizens don't
David-
realize some of the challenges we had on the west side.
David Waller is amazing.
Yeah, yeah.
We had over 200 applications from residents and homeowners
Yeah.
and renters. And I think we had about 50 applications from business owners seeking the hurricane relief funding. And
Bravo.
So we were,
No, you did a great, let me
We were
tell you,
taking over for
I've gone back on the
Sarah.
west side, the same route I tried to drive through the first time, and we have a city again, and people are back, starting to move back into their homes, and I think you did a
Yeah.
magnificent job, and I hope we memorialize that and don't forget what a huge effort it was in this. I'm from Fort Myers, so I know what happened in Fort Myers and Fort Myers Beach, but
Right.
in many ways, on the west side of town, it was as bad or worse.
thank you for acknowledging
Yeah,
that.
absolutely. Okay, what else can we discuss? Krista, do you have any comments? No, okay. What else?
I mean, that's pretty much it.
Let me just bring to the fore a bit of information. It's not asking for any action. It's just filling out. Historic Preservation Advisory Board met. They liked very much our concept of trying to value up areas within the redevelopment zones, but they also want to do the same thing citywide. And so they're going to work on a map that has both redevelopment areas that have important historic neighborhoods or national register or local register, but they also want to do an overlay for the city as a whole, not forget other parts of the city just because they haven't been recognized locally or nationally. And they're going to get back to us. And of course, Mr. Waller is a very key person in this project because he's our sign maker. And so they're working on that. And I think it was an idea that really caught on. And simultaneously, what happened was the designation of Peabody as a National Register site was a very good thing. And we're looking at the Mayor McLeod Bethune home, which is still not locally recognized or on the register. Scandal. Same as the Howard Thurman house. How could we do that? Jackie Robinson Ballpark, we are aiming as a national, as the super site. And so our friends in historic preservation will be coming back to us for our share, for the portion that directs South Atlantic and the Old Main Street redevelopment areas, because there are a lot of opportunities in that area. So it's a good thing. Mr. Waller thought it was a very good idea, and he's discussed it some with historic preservation, and they've just only had one meeting since the hurricanes themselves.
Okay.
So we're ramping up.
Okay. As part of your handout, I got this from our principal planner, Doug. He gave us a copy of the National Register Districts that is recognized in the city.
I thought you did that. I was
No,
telling
it wasn't
everybody
me.
what a great
It
job
wasn't
you
me.
did. Okay.
I leaned on Doug to provide this information, I was hoping that you all just take a look at it. And I didn't know all of this information
Yeah.
regarding the districts itself, the local districts.
Yeah.
So.
Well,
about it in a
our
minute.
city manager, I always say new, but he's not so new anymore, but he is our city manager, is very interested in our valuing up the resources we currently have that we just haven't really promoted.
Right.
And I think this is a good start, and I want to thank Kent, I want to thank you very much for weighing in on it,
Okay.
because I think it's as Mayor Glenn Ritchie used to say, low-hanging fruit. I think it is. Okay, anything else? We've scared
I
up-
wanted to introduce Angela Armstrong. She's new, just came here. She's a project manager, and her focus will be on Beachside.
Terrific.
She has a degree in hotel management, and so we just thought it would be appropriate that she is a project manager for the Beachside.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you coming from?
Well, as Ken said, I have a degree in hotel management and a minor in marketing. I'm from Dominican Republic.
Bravo.
I started my career as a marketing assistant back in Dominican Republic in a very small, all-inclusive 5-star hotel with 2,000 rooms. And after 2 years, I got promoted as a marketing manager. Then I moved to the US and I started working as a redevelopment coordinator. And I've been doing redevelopment for 5 years. I fell in love with redevelopment almost immediately. I started training and I got my certification for as a redevelopment professional. And now I'm here. I'm very excited. So I know that we have a lot of plans for the Beachside. So I'm very looking forward to work with you. I guess you will be hearing a lot from me from now on. So that's it.
Beautiful. Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome, Angela.
I would suggest maybe you might, just for your own edification, tackle some of the previous plans that were done on the Beachside, just for information only, to get a sort of grasp on this huge body of data and information we have. We haven't really been able to operate on it too much. We have, if you remember what Main Street looked like before it was renovated, there's a lot of mixed opinion on whether it was better then than it is now. but we have just started to scratch some of the huge potential we have on the beachside for redevelopment.
Yeah.
So I think you'd find it very interesting. There are about 4 plans that you should have in the office on the shelf there that I think are well worth just looking through.
Yeah, I'm working on that.
Terrific.
I've been reading.
Terrific.
I've been doing my homework.
Terrific. And I love the Dominican Republic. You have some of the greatest resorts in the world on the Dominican Republic.
Good. Thank you.
International resorts, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Bravo. Anything else? Anything else you are going to allow us to talk about?
Well, I mean, without having a forum, there's really
Not much.
not much.
Okay, I guess my only last word would be, we need the staff's help in helping us find eligible people. I just can't imagine if the Hotel Motel Association were notified that they wouldn't be able to put forward a couple of terrific, at least people who work in the redevelopment area.
I know, you know, I'll make a suggestion to you. She's involved with the Oceanwalk Shops. One second.
Also, I'd like the staff to be aware of the eligibility of members on this board, especially the dual service issue. I had no idea that my colleague and friend Dino had been appointed to the TDC. I would have immediately, the red light would have immediately gone off because I went through it. I had to give up, in order to be the chairman of ECHO, I had to leave economic development with the city. When we did tax abatement, we did all kinds of great programs in our city.
There's a lady by the name of Melissa. She works in the ocean. She's like one of the main people. Or you could go to one of the owners, Richard, at Oceanwalk Shops. You know, I would suggest him. I have a friend named Gary Koliopoulos who has a business in the redevelopment area. Yeah, he would probably be a good,
He'd be great.
you know, addition here. And I could even, if my sister's interested, I'll ask her because she's been in the area forever. You know, and she's, and I now. Your affiliation, I mean, you serve on the Hillside.
Pinewood.
Pinewood Cemetery.
That's my eligibility.
That's your eligibility. Okay, so if somebody's serving on let's say, the board of the church would be eligible then too.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, there's a lot of people there.
Sure, absolutely.
You know, there's a lot of people that would be eligible then. I mean, that opens up the door to, you know.
I don't know whether or not St. Demetrius is in.
Yeah, it is.
Actually, is it in the
Yeah.
redevelopment area? Okay.
Big
Yeah, that's a possibility. There are other churches.
There's
within
other
the
churches
redevelopment
too,
area.
you know.
Yeah, I think something tells me there are people out there.
I know
think-
plenty of people.
Yeah.
There's got to be people we can get on this board.
We gotta get this.
I think public awareness has just been an issue with the board, honestly.
We'll be willing to send emails or telephone call, make
I'll get
telephone
you some-
calls.
I'll get you
If we
some
know
names.
who the people
Yeah.
I'll
are.
get you some referrals.
Yeah.
We can do that. We'll
Yeah.
reach out to people.
Yeah. 'cause
And I'm sure this isn't the
Especially
only
now that we've lost
advisory
Teresa.
board that is looking for
We need
people
someone.
because,
No, we got
again,
plenty of
you
them.
know, public service it doesn't have the same sort of shine that it had years ago when I first started doing this. I don't know why. I mean, we still have a huge need. And I know the city, and I know especially charter governments love to get advisory, love to get the people involved in helping them make the right decisions, because they're running for reelection every 4 or 6 years, and it's an important process. So.
Okay.
And thank you, Kent, very much as our new guy
Well,
for
couldn't do it without the staff.
a step and the staff
Yes.
step in the right direction.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Any other
I'll
comments?
get you some names.
Okay.
So are we
Thank
getting a
you.
presentation on the LDC?
No, because.
Well,
Next meeting, since we have a conflicting schedule? Or-
It was I believe that it'll have been heard by the city
It will have already been heard.
by the time.
I did have a question about that. I saw in there that, it's a quick question.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
take us all the time you want.
There was a distance limitation put in there of 500 feet between any other business zoned as such. Is that legal? Because I've known with other zonings that that's not, to put that distance requirement in, that it can't be within another.
Yeah, if it's a grant, it's legal.
I think because
No, not with the grant, with the LDC.
Oh,
It's
okay,
5.2B
yeah.
standards for
Ben has
specific.
seen it. It's been reviewed by.
I can't
there
imagine
we
this,
go,
the
1.2B.
legal
With
staff
the-
hasn't gone
Shall be
over this.
located well, as I saw it come up with another one that we had to where
Yeah.
things were added in with the zoning and they had a minimum of 500 or 1,000 feet between, and it got eliminated because the legal staff said that
Yeah,
it was
it's all how you say it, too. It's all how it's stated. You know, if it's exclusionary, it's probably against the law. If it's inclusionary, then it's probably okay.
I would have to look at this and talk with the land use attorney as to why
I mean, I
they
agree
did
with
the,
wordage.
Yeah.
Yeah, the wordage gets the same effect.
But
why that was included. And it-
one is yes and the other is no.
It was
is the
mainly
problem.
just a question.
Yeah, no,
Clarification.
and I'll have to get the answer for that because I don't know that off the top of my head.
Okay.
I do know that there's a difference between it's a permitted use or if it's a special use. I don't know if that, I think that
Right.
falls under the,
It's a special use, I think. Yeah,
so it's under principal uses, so it's
trying to
not a special
understand
use.
here.
So I'll have
it's not
to
easy then.
Just a lot.
talk with the land use attorney about it.
As a parting comment, I will share with our staff and with our members of the board, the late Frank Gummy, who was our city attorney, and we had a problem with
When
adult.
you say late,
He's passed away, yes, he's passed away. We had a problem with dancers on Seabreeze Boulevard, and he drafted a new ordinance on what was allowed for a dancer to wear, and it was so hysterical, it made it on the Johnny Carson show. Somebody sent it to him, and he read, it was just
I remember
15 degrees from the nates of the this pubis major
remember
to,
that.
you remember that kind of thing? And it's, again, it's all in the
All in the wording.
It's all in the wording, yeah. It's one of our great Daytona Beach, great moments on late night TV. Yeah. Okay, anything else? If none, then we will adjourn our
You said
non-meeting.
no gavel.
Yeah, we will
Put it
adjourn.
down.
Well, I'll hit you right on.